I want to welcome you to the Grit for Life Directors Workshop, Week 1, Day 1. What is this Directors Workshop? Well, if you're taking it, you probably already have a little bit of an idea of what it is. If you've never taken one of our Grit for Life 4-week mind, body, and soul workshops, I am excited that you're here, and I promise you, this will be a great 4-week journey. My hope and desire is that over the next 4 weeks, you will watch as you go from someone who may not be in the director's chair of your life at day 1 to at the end of the 4 weeks, on the very last day, you will hopefully be holding the tools to be back in the director's chair of directing the masterpiece of you, your purpose, and your life. Over the next 4 weeks, we will be taking a look at your life, at other individuals, from the view as if we are taking a look at creating a Hollywood masterpiece. We will be taking a look at it through the eyes of a director. What does a director look for? What are some essentials that a director will need in order to create that masterpiece movie that others will want to watch, to experience, and for years to come, look back, rewatch again, and learn from? Maybe you're saying right now, but Nate, there's no way that I would be the director. There's no way that anyone would have those feelings about my life. Well, then if that is how you're feeling, if that is the statements that are playing over and over on the movie reel of your life, then I'm even that more excited that you are here. Here on day 1, we are going to be taking a look at, I think, one of the essentials that a director is going to need. You see, a director could be someone who has had past movie hits that people have talked about over and over. And now the expectations are set high. Maybe that is where you are. Maybe you have had success in life, but recently you have found yourself plateauing, or maybe even slipping. You went from directing an A version of life to now kind of a B-rated movie. Because the expectation that you have done something amazing before is there, but you don't feel like you no longer have the ability to do that. And so you're worried, you're scared. We all have those moments. Or maybe you take a look back and you say, you know, I've never had that breakthrough moment. I've always wanted to have that masterpiece of a life. I've always wanted to have that masterpiece that would be worth putting on screen for the world to see. But it's never quite gotten there. In fact, you talk about B movies, I'd be satisfied with a B movie because all mine have been more like home movies. Very grainy, very jerky, unsteady. The script has been all over the place. That's okay, because we all have also been there. I think one of the most important things that a director who is planning on directing a movie needs to come across and to embrace, to tie in and gain a passion for is the right screenplay. I know there are some out there who would say that any amazing director could take any screenplay and make it into a masterpiece. Well, I disagree. I believe that a director has to have the right screenplay. What is a screenplay and why is it so vital and important? A screenplay basically is a written script of the context of what that movie is going to be. It'll have lines, dialogue. It might even set up specific scenes. Granted, the director may change those over time, but it is that initial first impression that director gets that right screenplay at the right time in their hands and says, this is it. I'm going to make my masterpiece. Unfortunately, many of you and many of us and many people out there were handed screenplays that they just couldn't be passionate about. Some of them may have been written up by people who you have come across in your life. Some of them may have been written by you. You have an idea, but when you're taking a look at the screenplay that is written before you, you're saying this isn't what I thought it would be. That's understandable. The beauty about a screenplay is this. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, most screenplays the movie doesn't end up always exactly like the screenplay. Changes are made. Storyboards are written out. Editing takes place in a cut room. Film is left on the editing floor. Actors come and actors go. Special effects can be added in, and then raw footage can also be changed. That's what I want you to know and understand right now. All I want you to do is try to figure out what the screenplay is to your life. I don't need you to try to figure out who your supporting actors are going to be right now, because they're already written into your life. They'll be there. Now, who will play them? We'll figure that out later. What I want you to do is become passionate about the screenplay that you are given in life, and understand that you, as the director of your life, have the authority and the power to take that red pen and mark through things on the screenplay that you don't want. You don't have to stick with the screenplay you have been given. You are the director. I talk to people so many times who feel as if they've been given a raw deal. What that tells me is that that individual has taken themselves out of the director's seat, and they're holding a screenplay that they don't like and think that it is exactly how it has to be filmed. That is not the case. I don't care what society has labeled you or told you. Maybe society has told you you will always only be a home video director or a B-rated director. I am here to tell you that you can be an Oscar-winning director of your life. So how do we change the screenplay? How do we write a screenplay? How do we find the perfect screenplay? You find it inside. It is already there for you. The thing is that the noise and the chaos of life, the words and the movie critics who have spoken into your life, you have believed. I have found that with my passion of movies, I do a lot of research and reading within the background of movies. Recently, I was watching a Netflix story or documentary series, actually, on the movies that created us. And they talked about the movie Dirty Dancing. And I challenge you, if you have Netflix, to go watch the series, The Movies That Made Us, and watch the episode Dirty Dancing, especially if you're a fan of the movie. This movie almost never happened. Why? Because people did not like the screenplay. They thought it was a little risky. They thought it was risque. They didn't like how it was written, and they told the writer of the screenplay that it would never happen unless she changed things within the screenplay. She refused. She said, if this movie is going to happen, it's going to happen on my terms. It is going to happen the way I wrote it. This is my story, not yours. Originally, Dirty Dancing was actually being made by a company that was direct to video, VHS. So in essence, this movie should have never even been to the big screen. We know it today as a blockbuster hit. Why? Because the person who wrote the screenplay, the lady who wrote it, refused to make changes that other people wanted her to make. She stood by her story. Sure, maybe it wasn't perfect, and maybe, as a screenplay of its own, just on paper, people couldn't see her vision, but she could. I don't care if others can't see the vision of how you believe and trust or would dream that your life could be. That's okay. They don't need to. Speaking of another movie, maybe you've heard of it. ended up being a series of movies that are still being made today. But it all started with one man. One man who only had his dog, a little bit of money, and nothing else. Who had a vision of a story, and he wrote a screenplay. His very first. He wrote a screenplay about a Italian guy who worked on the docks, who really didn't have anything but the love of a woman that he recently met, but he wanted to be a boxer. And the story goes that this boxer would rise up and fight. And from that, we received such great lines as Adrian yelling out. We have such epic visual effects and visual scenes of the Rocky Balboa running up the stairs, putting his hands up in triumph. Again, this story almost never happened. You see, Sylvester Stallone had a vision. Never been in movies before. Never directed, never had acted. But he took his script, his play script into the directors. And he said, here's my screenplay. I would like to make this movie about a person who has no chance of winning a fight, and yet does. A down and out boxer. A guy who no one really knows, and is in love with some girl who works at a pet store. The producers and the movie people laughed, and they said, not really sure. And they said, well, tell you what, we will make it. Sylvester Stallone said, okay, but I have one prerequisite, and that is actually two. You do it the way I wrote it, and I will be Rocky Balboa. Those who were at the movie studio laughed, said, no way. We're not going to invest money in you. If we're going to even try to invest money in this screenplay, it's probably going to go directly to video. We're not even probably going to put it in the theaters. And there's no chance that we're going to let you direct it. Sylvester Stallone then took his play script, his screenplay, and he left. Well, the rest was history, because they did ask him to come back, and he gave them the screenplay with two conditions. You do it the way I wrote it, and you let me be the star. They did. It was one of the most lowest budgeted films during that time, which then broke out into one of the most successful movie series of all times that is still going on today through the movies Creed and Creed 2. Recently, Sylvester Stallone actually gave the rights over to Jordan, the guy who plays Creed in the movie Creed 1 and 2. Now, he didn't tell this actor that he had to follow Sylvester Stallone's footsteps. No. What he said was, I created something. I created Rocky. It led to Creed. But now Creed is yours. You make it yours. What can we learn from this? We can learn that Sylvester Stallone stuck by his guns and wouldn't let anyone change his screenplay. We can learn that he was determined to be the star of his own story. And in doing so, he created a legacy for those who followed after. And with that legacy, he understood that his time was coming to an end when it came to the Rocky story. But he had created something powerful over the years for the next generation to follow. So I challenge you today as you head into this workshop. Write your own screenplay to your life. It is yours, and be passionate about it. It is your story. I cannot tell you your story. Only you can. Do not allow someone else to write your story. And if someone sees your story and says, hey, it's a good story, I want to take it and control it, you stand by yourself, your dreams, and you say, no, I star in my story. Why? Because it is your screenplay. For yours to be passionate about, for yours to direct, for you to star in, so that you create a legacy for generations to come. My friends, you are the director. Go grit it.